Ahoy! We talked about the upcoming New World patch just yesterday, about the Blunderbuss and the new expedition that will be coming with that patch. But now there has been a massive post about the actual patch notes, and this is just version 1 of potentially 3 again, that's what they're usually doing at the moment, for the entire March patch. And there is a ridiculous amount of changes in here that I think will do really well for the game and almost put the game in a state that I wish it would have been at the start, because a lot of the changes basically adjust things in a way that you would expect them to work in an MMO that is laid out this way, because a lot of the current setting, I would say, is still like kind of partially this way because of the PvP focus that the game initially had, like being like basically full loot PvP. And now a lot of things, like for example storage and transferring items between settlements and signing up for wars and stuff like that, are getting significantly easier, along with a lot of other fixes, etc. and changes, which I think puts the game in a much better state that I think would be a lot more appealing for players coming into the game. So based on that, I like to just talk about the changes, talk about all the major changes that I found in this. Just gonna go through them. Yeah, again, I don't think this patch is massively going to revive the entire game. I think it's more so there to keep people there for now until we see some bigger content patch with maybe Brimstone in the future. Maybe the devs will consider making the base game free and then you pay for Brimstone or something. We don't know, maybe console release. There are many options in which they could revitalize the game as a whole at a later point, but at the moment I think they're still very focused on fixing, and this patch is most certainly a good step in the right direction here. So first we have the Myrkguard expedition. We don't really need to talk about that again. I already talked about that yesterday. They now say that this is recommended for gear score 550 to 570, so this is worth keeping in mind. Then the main storyline also will end with this expedition, but this is just like the first main storyline essentially. And then the new weapon here, the Blunderbuss, which once again, strength and intelligence scaling. You can probably put an int gem into it as well and then make it almost fully scaled with int. So yeah, very, very interesting. A lot of mobility utility apparently, as well as AoE. So really, really cool. And then the weapon quest, along with that, the legendary weapon quest for the Blunderbuss. And now we get to the other parts, the parts that we haven't talked about. Some smaller things, some bigger things. Let's go through them. First thing is we're getting world paintings. So each territory will have 2 easels, and when you interact with them, you can get a painting of the view from that area. That is something you can put in your house as decoration. And if you lose one, you can get it back 24 hours later from the same easel. So kind of cool feature. I don't know if it's going to give housing score, but either way, I like this because it's just something that adds a little bit of meaning to the paintings that you can put in your house. And more significantly here is Rafflebones, the loot collector. So this is a new mob apparently, and he only stays there for 45 seconds when you run into him, which is, I don't know what that means for tanks, like if they can kill him in time, if he's just relatively weak in general or whatever, but I hope it's manageable for tanks to kill him. But he will always drop a named weapon. In addition, level 60 players will be given obsidian gypsum on any kill of Rafflebones, and if he's in a zone above level 60, he will also award the player, if they're level 60, 500 umbral shards. I imagine you won't very frequently find him in zones above level 60 because there aren't that many zones above level 60, but I guess if you're running around like Myrkguard and that type of stuff, maybe if you find him there, it would be worth it. I'm not quite sure how this will work out and what kind of loot he can drop, like how high the gear score would be, etc. But it's definitely an interesting one, like just like a nice little gimmick, and if you stumble across him, it's probably pretty cool. And likewise, there is Stinky the Hunter now, who walks around in Weaver's Fen, but only during the day and hides in the night. And he can drop specific named items: Stinky's Keepsake, Stinky's Sharpshooter, and Stinky's Hatchet. So those are probably that guy's probably more common, more frequently spotted, but only for level 30 players, like nothing relevant for late game. And there's also the Forgotten Yeti, which is not late game Yeti, like a level 45 Yeti group that will be in the Great Cleave. And then there are new roadside encounters that are not further specified in Weaver's Fen and Restless Shores. And the Unbound Island in the Cutlass Keys is changed a little bit, so that I don't know if the storyline around it is changed as well, but yeah, probably different mobs and whatever. And the same thing is the case for Andrometus in Weaver's Fen. Then we're getting to the bug fixes. I have to quickly look through this to remember which ones were actually like the really significant ones. This one, for example, is good. The auto grant to faction advancement quest when players switch factions. There were a few issues with switching factions and the advancements before. The other ones, this one's kind of relevant for like leveling, so a lot of the difficulty and a bunch of stuff surrounding the early leveling experience, main story quests, etc. seems to be changed again. This looks like something they keep working on in general. There's also a tier 4 housing added to Myrkguard and Emerald Reach settlements. I'm actually surprised. I didn't know that there was no tier 4 housing in Emerald Reach, but the more you know. And no more or less areas where you can drown on land, which is also nice. Then there are various collision fixing things that also play into something that comes a little later, where you can not collide with players in as many scenarios anymore. There are some changes to AI, and this one is actually pretty good. So what this does is essentially, if somebody attacks a mob and pulls a mob with a ranged attack, that mob will not aggro onto you if you're closer, unless you attack, if you do an aggressive act, attacking the AI, taunting, healing a player, fighting the AI, blah, blah, blah. Then you can still get aggro, but otherwise that mob will run past you, as it should have always been. Like, I don't know why they didn't do that from the start. This is something, I guess, maybe, again, a remnant of PvP, of hardcore PvP. This is something that will especially be relevant for people that, you know, try to pull mobs onto others while they're farming nodes, which is incredibly annoying. Which I guess will not be completely removed, because somebody could still like stand behind you when you're on a node and like try to pull the aggro onto you that way, or like try to get you hit that way. But generally speaking, having the aggro locked onto them should make that a lot harder for them, because the mob would still like return to them as long as you as a player are not using an aggressive action. And yeah, I think that should make things a lot better overall. So I like that they're changing this. There's also a grace period for mobs after they spawn, so you're not going to get attacked immediately, so it's just like 5 seconds delay beforehand. Then the next ones I think are not that important, rather they are like more specific mobs that get like fixes here and there to their particular interactions. Something that's worth noting is that wolves seem to be nerfed a fair bit, which may be relevant if you ever get like a beast dungeon or something, because the lunge from the wolves, it's generally one of the stronger attacks in the game. Then there's some changes to expeditions. The first one is very convenient. Only one person, only one with the key basically, needs to be at the entrance, and everyone else can port into the expedition. So you don't really need to leave town anymore, or you know, need to leave, like wait for people to come over. Then there are some changes to Simon Gray. He's apparently got a different look now, and some changes to the Blighted Greenskeeper as well. Like, for example, not getting killed behind the boulder and stuff like that. You know, just generally mechanics that were janky for a long time. And then there's changes to mutators. So the first one here especially is important, I think. Difficulty of named AI have been tuned down while bosses have been tuned up. I think this is very good, because named AI mutators were sometimes stronger than the bosses, especially in Dynasty, where the scalings are all kinds of janky anyways. And you don't get the tool tips for curses before Mutator 9 anymore, which makes sense. And then there's some changes here to Desiccated and Eternal, so that they should work a little bit more consistently. And especially with Eternal, it no longer procs Paranoid of damage over time effects, which I think caused it to cause a lot more damage, if I understand correctly. But yeah, so those are fixed, and that brings us to a even more important section, which is combat. One of this is more of a quality of life thing, but you can now open your inventory while moving. I feel like this is now less important than it would have been in earlier times, because no one is really traveling around the world that much anymore. But there's still occasions where you're like maybe sorting your like changing something in your inventory during a war, not sorting inventory. And in those situations, you could still make use of it, or using a haste pot from your inventory should be a lot easier with this as well. So there's definitely benefit in that still, even though earlier would have been a lot nicer when you were walking around the world, more like auto walking in general. And the combat system here also gets overhauled so that now you're no longer restricted in changing, for example, your ability, your spec or your equipment while abilities were on cooldown. Now it's about being in combat. So if you enter combat, if you're engaged in combat or get attacked, you have like this in combat status, and you cannot do like any interaction between like your like inventory and your equipment or ability specs while you're in this combat system, or while in this combat state. And I think that's a lot better, and that's how it should have been from the start, basically, as well. A lot more convenient. Then we have a bunch of general changes. Some stuff here, first of all, about the sound effect below 0 mana. You can now get the speed buff while using emotes, so you can gallop faster. This one's very important. The weapon sheathing. Oh no, wait, sorry, it's not the weapon sheathing. It's a little bit later. That's just some animation thing. Healing is important. Fixed an issue where incoming healing efficiency modification was incorrectly being kept at 50% instead of 100%. Didn't even know it could go that high, but kind of scary. And ammo updates. You no longer need to use ammo. So flint ammo has been removed and will be turned into iron arrows. And instead, you now have infinite ammo if you're not using any type of ammo, but that just gives you the base damage, and this is the case for musket bow and blunderbuss. If no ammo is equipped, you will have an ammo counter will not be displayed, but once you equip higher tier ammo, then you get an infinity icon in modes such as Outpost Rush, where you're not using ammo, and otherwise, like in open world, for example, you will see the ammo counter. So you'll still have to pay for any higher tier bullets and stuff. What is changed now is that the max stack here is 1000 instead of 500. I still think this is unnecessarily annoying. And considering how all other weapons work, I don't think this is needed. Like, why such a significant fee for extra damage? I understand that, like, as a range player, you have like lower repair costs, for example, but that's the same for like a fire staff user, and they don't have to pay anything either. So to me, it's just an annoyance, and it's just something that like initially kept me from even picking up the musket, for example, as an early weapon, because it was just too obnoxious to even deal with the ammo. Obviously, it's not that hard to come by, but it's just an unnecessary frustration factor, and I think they could just make it so that you can get a higher tier ammo type permanently and just need some mats to craft it once or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'm not really a fan of this system because it basically means more money equals more damage, and that's just weird. But I'm glad they introduced the base version that is infinite and that still allows you to deal the normal damage at least. Then there's another mention of the Blunderbuss here, which is pretty much the same as it is above. There's a few things that they copied a couple of times here. Bow gets a fix here, where status effects could not be extended via perks or other bonuses. Probably fairly significant, to be honest. And the fire staff gets a pretty significant buff again, which is surprising to me considering, you know, just had fire staff buffs, and we haven't really seen them in action so far. So now the burning debuff applied from various abilities and attacks with the fire staff works differently. The tick rate is increased from 1.5 seconds to 1 second, so it ticks more often. The maximum stacks are decreased from 10 to 5. The damage per stack, however, is increased from 3 to 6%. So you're not losing any damage, you're getting the same damage, but quicker. Half the time. No, not half the time, like 2/3 of the time. I don't know if this may have something to do with like preventing lag, because then maybe it's like less back-end calculations. But yeah, it's just straight up a buff to your burning damage, so it's pretty big. Fix an issue that prevented players from interrupting repeated light attacks with a block. Burnout stops when you traverse into deep water, and this is true for all mobility abilities that come after this. So this is Great Axe, Hatchet, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not going to mention it every single time, but it's the same things for all. So you don't get as much of an advantage running away if you have a dash ability, especially in open world. Which I think is fair, so it's like a bit more even ground between those who have like normal movement speed increases. And the flamethrower apparently didn't scale its potency with gear score with accelerating flamethrower, so probably didn't get as much speed as you should have, so that's fixed too. Great X Bloodlust adjusted detection volume to prevent exploit between dueling players. Not sure what that's about. I'm wondering if it's something to do with the trick where you could like basically do PvP missions quicker, faction missions by dueling someone and then using Bloodlust, but I doubt it. I don't really know what this is meant to be. Hatchet, Raging Torrent, Refreshing Torrent fixed an issue with the final attack of Raging Torrent was not triggering the cooldown reduction from this perk, so that's fixed. And Energizing Pharaoh Rush actually wouldn't give you the stamina gain, at least not all of the time, so that's fixed too. Ice Gauntlet gets a fix that I think the Void Gauntlet gets as well. So if you use you are able to use a heavy attack even if you don't have enough mana for it. And then a light attack would be performed at the end of the charge. The functionality has been changed so that attempting to charge without sufficient mana will instead trigger a light attack immediately. So basically you skip the charge, which makes a lot more sense. Same block thing as well. Entombed fixed an issue that prevented this perk from functioning, healing Entomb from functioning properly if the player exited the Entomb state by dodging. And this is a very strong improvement, I think, even though I'm not really seeing that many Ice Gauntlets at the moment, to be honest. And I don't think that'll change it. Yeah, the other ones are just like mostly mana fixes here. And then we have Lifestaff. Lifestaff has just a text fix to upper protection. The heal is actually 8%, not 10%, but it is that heal already, just the wrong text essentially. Some durability damage bug rather. Sacred Ground gets a rename to Blessed. It's now called Anointed, so it's not so confusing. Also fix an issue where this upgrade provides healing through Ice Gauntlet's Entombed ability. This was something that was basically because Entombed gave 100% healing reduction, and if you had more than 100% healing, like if you had 120%, then you would still heal. So that is no longer the case, which I think is a good fix. And well, I assume heal's another way now anyways. And but like on the attack system, some changes to mechanics for selfing, etc. Some cancel glitch that is fixed. Nothing that big. Musket shooter stance gets like a fix for the censored mutator specifically, not that important. Marksman fixed an issue where this upgrade was not functioning properly. Back it up fixed an issue where this passive was disabled while using Sticky Bomb. And Critical Reload fixed an issue that caused the sound effects for this to play, whatever, incorrectly. Then we have some stuff with Rapier. Tondo fixed an issue where using Evade to cancel Tondo could result in the damage being dealt without showing the visual effects. Never heard of that one before. And then Flurry fixed an issue where this ability could not be cancelled to Flesh. Obviously nice for mobility to have that option, but most people are not even using Flurry, so it's kind of, yeah. And then, yeah, the rest is just minor once again. The Sword and Shield also get some durability fix, and the rest is not really relevant except counterattack issue where it couldn't function anymore. Void Gauntlet gets the same thing again with a heavy attack, now going into a light attack instead. No further changes here. Again, interesting to me. I think Void Gauntlet, once again, still extremely strong, especially in Wars, in a PvE. But, it's what it is. Again, this is just the first patch. We might see further balance changes later down the road. I'm also suspecting that we'll see some Great X specific graphical changes later on the road, and they're just kind of like assessing the situation at the moment to see what the point of balance could be. Path of Destiny, stimulated reduction, updated the description to specify that the cooldown reduction only occurs on the first 4 enemies hit by the skill, which is fine. I mean, how often are you really going to hit more than 4 enemies with it? It can happen, but it's not that frequent. And Mighty Gaffle, Justice for All, fixed an issue that caused the second hit to refresh the cooldown of the ability. Outnumbered fixed an issue that prevented this passive from functioning when its conditions were met. I didn't even know that Outnumbered didn't work. That's actually kind of big, I think, but Hammer not that good at the moment, so may not matter that much. Then we have some item changes. Kind of just having a quick look where the important ones are. Here, this is where it begins. The damage ward perks. So these are adjusted. Abyssal ward specifically was higher than the others. That's changed now, so it starts at 2.5%, goes up to 6%, and it's now instead 3% and goes up to 6%. So only the lower tier absorption was changed, but the thrust, slash, and strike ward effects all get significant increases. They're now going from instead of going from 2 to 3.75%, they now go from 2 to 5%, which means the higher tier versions, the tier 5 versions, actually pretty good. Like, if you know that you're gonna get hit by a specific type of damage primarily, and you just fully gear against that, it's a very big reduction, you know? It's just easy 25% on your armor alone. So yeah, I think that's very interesting. And I wonder, like, the thing is, we haven't really seen any meta where any of those damage types alone would have been a threat. Like, at the moment, for example, there is always going to be like at least some elemental damage and then some slash damage and likely some thrust damage as well. So you can't really build around it that well. But if you like playing a specific role and you know that you're primarily getting aggressed on by thrust damage as a healer, for example, I think these are going to be pretty good now. Strike Ward fixed an issue where this perk incorrectly stated reduced lightning damage, and then the elemental wards here are also going up from for the, like, same rate as the thrust, slash, and strike ward, like up to no, actually they're going higher. Sorry, they're going from 3.75% up to 6% now. So 6% actually even more significant reduction, and I think this that'll be noticeable, but it's still hard to build around it. Like, at the moment, maybe you could get away with fire wards instead of elemental wards, because then you're just kind of accepting some ice and void, but on the other hand, your fire damage is so drastically reduced that it could be worth it. But at the same time, that's really hard to say. It's just, it could shift any moment again, and then you constantly have to regem. So it also depends on how much you want to spend. This one is what I was thinking the other one was earlier. Fix an issue where weapon passive abilities such as Sacred Protection were being removed when consuming potions due to the weapons being sheathed. So this is a new bug on this patch. It's obviously very frustrating. So basically, when you do this, and like when you self buff in any way and then you use a potion, there's a good chance that your self buff will disappear. I don't know which ones this will not apply for anymore now, but it's definitely a good change in my opinion. Then we have Bloodletting and Burning. Both have their duration bonus increased from 10 to up to 30%, which I think is really interesting. I think there's actually potential for like Spear, Fire Staff to utilize this, because the damage over time effects are already pretty strong, and extending them by a fair bit could be cool. Could be a strong effect. I'm not sure. I have to try, but it seems like something that has potential. Divine Amulet Perk fixed an issue where this perk bonus was removed upon death. Also very good that that's fixed. And yeah, Plentiful Shots and Arrows updated the description for these perks for clarity and added previously unlisted 2-second cooldown. More importantly, Retaliate. This perk has been reworked to give a damage bonus for 3 hits, from being a damage bonus for 3 hits after being hit 3 times, to giving a 2-second damage bonus after getting hit 1 time. This will not refresh while already active. I think this is massive though. Especially in like War or OPR or something, you will constantly get hit by something if you're like a bruiser in the middle of things. And sometimes it's just going to be small damage. It's not always going to be big damage, but like it's going to be enough straight bullets hitting you in one way or another, shrapnel if you will, that you'll end up having a very consistent uptime on this, which I think could actually be similar to the uptime on like stamina-related bonus effects. And I think that's, considering the high value of extra damage, I think that's actually pretty good. I'm strongly considering to run this next patch, because I think it'll have a lot of value overall. It depends a little bit, obviously, still on your weapon and everything, but you know, on a hammer, especially on a hammer, it's like when you power through pain on top of that, sounds absolutely insane to me. Then in terms of game modes, we have first of all, we have a really nice like bonus effect basically. If you have an empty slot in your inventory and you buy something in OPR or in War, it'll now automatically go into the empty consumable slot instead of you having to drag it from your inventory first. Much more convenient. Players can now queue for wars and invasion from their map. So you don't need to go to the area anymore where it's going to take place. You just click on it on the map and you say, yep, I want to take part in this. And this is going to make the queues, the lists a lot longer, I'm sure. But it's also going to make it much more convenient for people to sign up for things. And I think that's nice. Even though fast traveling doesn't really cost anything anymore. Just, you know, you don't have to walk the war board or whatever and just do it. Elite arena bosses see like a fair few changes. So you get quantity and quality of rewards increased. You also get 50 Umbra shells for completing it, and later there's also some new ways in which you can get keys from them. War. The core change of this patch. Defenders will no longer be able to respawn on the points A, B, and C. They can only respawn inside the fort. Increase the quantity and quality of rewards that players will receive from reward caches granted from war. Hopefully by a lot, because at the moment they're absolute trash. But this change, this respawn change, is very massive. I was trying to think of ways in which the defender still has an advantage now. The defender still has an advantage in terms of warhounds or siege weaponry in general, if you use anything else, but primarily I would argue warhounds are the one, which gives your team an additional buff. So that is an advantage you have while defending. And you also still have a significant advantage once it comes to defending the fort. On the points themselves, the attacker actually should go roughly even. So while the attacker doesn't have access to warhounds, they technically have their own siege weaponry as well that they can use, which has different effects. But again, not used that much. But they have the attacker's advantage, which allows them to cap points when there's an even numbers of attackers and defenders. Which makes me think it's likely that in an even match between like two hypothetical completely even teams, the attacker will sooner or later start capping the points outside the fort. What that will likely also mean, unless they specifically change that later, because it's not mentioned here, is that once one point is captured, the advantage snowballs in favor of the attacker, because the attacker will now likely be able to respawn from the point they've captured. So team starts capturing A, they now have a shorter way over to B than the defenders have if they die. So at that point, it's only a matter of time, right? Like until you have enough of an advantage to make it to the fort gates. At the fort gates specifically, things swing in favor of the defender. Previously, usually by the time you get to the gates, it meant that the attacker had so much of an advantage that it didn't really matter. It was kind of over. But now you can achieve that in a more even setting. But in this setting, the defender will now be able to spawn in the fort right next to the point that the attacker needs to cap, whereas the attackers still need to come from outside, need to get through the gates, and can only respawn at the captured points. That is not a super long way, and if you play this right and you play aggressively around respawn points, then this can very well also go in favor of the attacker. What this may mean is that depending on how things go, it's hard to say. It may end up being a situation where it's easier to attack a territory than to defend it. I'm very happy that this change is happening in general. I'm very happy that defense gets way less of an advantage than they have right now, because it's just too one-sided. And I think this should have happened a month ago, to be honest. I am a bit concerned that since there's no other compensation mechanics, attackers may end up being favored. And I think that wouldn't be good, because then no one would want to hold territory anymore. And then the largest company would always win, because then the largest company would simply prevent being attacked by zerging people when they're doing PvP missions. Because the moment they get attacked, there's a serious threat that they would lose the territory. And I think that would be a very unfun way of territories being held and the game being played, because I think PvP missions in this game are still absolutely terrible. We'll see if that's actually what happens. We'll see what direction things go in. But I am curious. I'm very curious, because I think there's some potential here in some ways for this to be really, really good. But there's also a little bit of risk involved. And maybe they'll do some test wars on PTR to see how they go. And maybe we'll see some further changes in patch 2 and 3. But either way, it's a very, very good starting point. And if this means that we finally lose our territory, I'm more than happy. We can take another one then because the defender's advantage is gone. Okay, next point. Invasion increase the quantity and quality of rewards that players receive from the reward caches grant from invasion, because right now they're also absolutely terrible. I think that both wars and invasion should also provide umber shards, by the way, because pretty much everything else now provides umber shards. But yeah, that's just me. Outpost rush. Downstate is removed entirely. Players will now immediately die when hitting 0 health. Absolutely fantastic change in my opinion. Much more fun and much less annoying. People will not hold their attacks just to take the kills, basically. So the credit obviously goes to the player who kills the enemy instead of the one who downs them at death door. And players will now receive score credit for contesting a control point. I was talking about this in the last patch, how they forgot that part was beyond me. They did it. They did it. I don't know if they forgot it or if it just took longer to implement, but I'm very, very happy. Now I can actually play the objective and get points for playing the objective. That is absolutely fantastic. It will also mean there will be a lot less PvE because people are not going to point farm in PvE anymore. And that makes me very happy because I want Outpost Rush to be PvP mode. So yeah. Really good. Also, players can now see the enemy progress towards a corrupted brute token on the map. Combine that with the fact that brute tokens can be stolen and that they need more Azoth to be summoned. It is going to be very risky to try and get a brute on the field. So probably not even worth it that much after this. And I like that. I really like that because I just want to fight in OPR. Starter beach has been changed a little bit now, so now you can choose between a Warhammer, Fire Staff, Bow, or Hatchet, and no longer Sword. You also get an armor, some potions, and some rations. Durability loss. Only your equipped items will take durability loss when you die. Nothing in your inventory. Fantastic. Why did that take so long? But it is here, again, like I said, in many ways, the game is now in the state that I wish it would have been in from the start. At the same time, like with the durability loss, it can be argued that, you know, it's very low risk to carry a ton of stuff now, especially because it doesn't cost anything to fast travel anymore anyways. But I guess that's just the way they want it to be, and I am not really complaining, so yeah, I'd rather have some, like, my storage space is limited, so I'd rather carry some on my like body. And we get to storage space in just a second. Invasions War, again, you can sign up from anywhere, but remove the cost associated with moving items between territory storage, and your faction no longer needs to own both territories in order to transfer items between your storages. So that, in my opinion, fantastic changes. And there's more later. Okay, we get to them. Player-to-player collisions removed from open world, expeditions, and invasion. Like I said, it's pretty much anywhere except wars and OPR. Fast travel is now more responsive when traveling short distances. Perks, War and Invasion, some VFX that has been fixed. Outpost Rush, VFX, blah blah blah. There are now some changes to quests. New soloable quests options are available for the main story quest to allow players to progress without running certain expeditions. So I guess you get like an alternative options. Especially useful for players that are coming in at the moment that can't find anyone to run the expeditions with them. New quests leading players to the legendary Blunderbuss have been added. New faction missions targeting corruption breaches can now be found in all zones. I'm assuming these are PvE missions and they don't count towards influence. If they do, might actually be nice because at least you get a little bit extra out of that, because faction missions for influence are absolutely terrible. Starting beaches were updated and weapon ranks, blah blah blah. We already had that. Gypsum reward for level 60 quests in Shattered Mountain, Myrkguard, and Able Scale Reach. Unfortunate for those who already did those quests like me. Oh well. Added map pins for trial quests NPCs for the faction advancement quests, which was always a bit weird. Everything else in this game is super hand-holdy except for those quests, but oh well. And the level threshold requirement for main story quests has been removed, I guess, so you can get carried through them or what? I don't know. Updated into the factions to be more streamlined and introduce a new map and overhead icon for NPCs. Now, notable fixes. Now, we have to scroll a little bit to find the right ones. There's some quest fixes here as usual. Some mobs despawning, blah, blah, blah. It's gotta see, there was something important here, I think, towards the end. No, never mind. I was missing it. But I don't think there was anything that important here at all, actually. Economy. Players will now get back half of the original purchase cost when abandoning a house. Very nice. So at least it's more like actually buying a house, I guess, but more or less. In a bad economy or something. Double the storage bonus for all tiers of storage chests. That's the one that I wanted to get to when it comes to storage space. The other part of that. Chests that used to provide 200 weight of bonus storage now provide 400 weight, etc. So again, much better in my opinion. Yeah, overall, carry weight and inventory management will just take less priority than it should. Like, it should have never taken that much priority. I spent way too much time in this game inventory managing, and this is, again, a step in the right direction. There still needs to be way more. There need to be like item searchable things need to work better and all that, but it's going in the right direction. Then there's some stuff about trophy and storage. That's just descriptions. There are no earthly rewards. So elemental nodes, coin, and diamond gypsum are waiting to be uncovered as you gather and turn them from harvesting, logging, and mining. Not quite sure if it's just like if you just normally farm or if there's like new caches or whatever, but I think it's just normally farming, and yeah, I don't know. Cool. Some extra rewards and some modes especially is nice because they are a bit scarce. Elite Boss arena keys may now drop from enemies in the surrounding elite zones. That's the other one about elite bosses, which I think is very nice. Just, I don't know what the chance for them to drop is, but it's nice to have that opportunity. Fixed an issue where expeditions could improperly drop loot intended for areas outside of the expedition. Yeah, I'm still not sure what's up with the that's been fixed ages ago, like way like right after the mutations came out. Like for 2 days we actually had open world drops that could otherwise not even drop at 600 gear score. They suddenly existed and then they were gone again and they were never spoken of, and now there's a fix for that. That was deployed a month ago. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. I thought that was such a good change. I thought the drop rate was too high, but I thought it was such a good change, and then they just decided, nope, we're rolling that back entirely and never speak about it. The blah blah, just minor changes here. Fix an issue causing invasion weapon drops to be exceedingly rare. They should from now on be significantly more likely. This also makes the named weapon drops from invasions slightly more likely. I actually don't even know what named weapons are in invasions, but I'm assuming it's just corrupted damage or some stuff, so probably not that good. I'll have to have a look at it. Just one specific change for Cookie here. This one is good. The amount of materials required to craft elite arena tuning orbs has been reduced. They now require 3 runestones down from 5, and 3 of the orb specific materials, a firefox, fancy shell, or glowing swamp moss, down from 5. Tutor for crafting mods have been updated to show the proper ranges based on gear score. The crafting mod selector pop is now sorted alphabetic. Can we just have like search functions for literally everything? The UI, the trading posts and everything, that needs to be a priority. New perks have been added to the world. This is kind of weird. And new item perks have also been added. So I'm not sure like what perks. But I don't know if this is just weird wording or what's going on with that. This is just fixes basically. And Shadow of Timothy and Keeper's Pendant now gives max 25 of this 10, so 30. Actually not entirely sure what that means. And why would they? Oh, because they're amulets. Yeah. Right? I don't know. Not sure. Not from the top of my head. I forgot which items these are, but it's a pendant. Yeah, must be an amulet. Okay. Can loot. Let's see if they actually fixed the visuals. So they fixed a bunch of visuals here, but did they fix the charter set? I can't find it because that one looks completely wrong. The helmet, sadly, which is a really cool one. Otherwise, this one's cool. Old amulet strings and earrings can now actually be sold on the trading post properly. Lifebreaker's appearance apparently also was incorrect. And fix a bug that was scaling gear score from expertise level for gear award from fishing quests. Then this one's also really big. Daily cooldowns now refresh each day at 5 a.m. in each server region's time zone. Weekly cooldowns refresh each Tuesday at 5 a.m. in each server region's time zone. What that means for less than weekly, being mutation ops from faction vendor, I don't know. But as for everything else, that's pretty good. It's pretty good changes. And then there's some OPR stuff, and there's actually already like further changes down here. Some more info here. The quality of life stuff for the main quest primarily here. It's like a banner for unlocking fast travel shine spirit, fast travel spirit shine in the HUD when discovered. I think most of them are not. Oh yeah, /help emote list to only display the minimum emotes. Oh yeah, this one is also really nice. Player's average gear score now appears in the player's tooltip on the wallboard. I'm actually not sure how that works because it says average gear score, not average expertise. So does it just take the gear score you have when you sign up or what? Or in what moment? But either way, definitely very useful for people that have to like rely on sign-ups from other companies to just have a quick check over their gear to know their gear score and everything. Or to see if your own company members are slacking. There's some fixes to messaging in various ways as well. Language mostly. I think most of this is not really that notable though. Unless I missed something there. I think it's all just like... Yeah. I think that was nothing too significant. This one is weird. Fix an issue with storage chat. In the storage chat where players could accidentally open reward containers when holding down the shift key and rapidly left clicking to store reward containers. So it happened to me a couple times. I don't know why that was so weird. Fix an issue with in the storage chat where an item could move into the inventory when the player attempts to salvage a locked item, and a message saying unlock this item to allow it to be salvaged when the player attempts to salvage a locked item. I hope that they also like change the weird thing where when you move an item, like everything rearranges every time, but it's not mentioned at least. So we'll have to see about that one. And the rest are just sound effects here. But overall, tons of changes, some really nice quality of life stuff, some really interesting other changes. I think in the second phase of PTR, we'll probably see like more weapon balance again. Blunderbuss specifically as well. Probably going to be a few fixes by then. The PTR is going up tonight, so we'll be able to have a look at things then. For now, I'm very happy with what we have so far. It's definitely a nice baseline, some stuff to work with in terms of changes, in terms of what we can look forward to. So yeah, I'm really happy with what they're doing here, and I think if they can build off this, it could go pretty well. So if they can build off this patch, which will probably bring a few players back, and then basically have the April patch in the pipeline the moment, be like, hey, look guys, this is what we're doing now, like this is what just came out, this is cool, but look, this is what's gonna come next, and they already have the next piece of content then, that would be huge. But I don't know if they do. Like, I don't know how far along they are with Brimstone Sands. I feel like that's gonna be like, I'm guessing around May or later. Yeah, maybe they have like other expeditions that are nearly ready to go or something. I don't know. But yeah, I wouldn't expect anything too massive right after this patch. But if they were able to pull off something massive right after this patch, then I think it could really give the game some momentum again that they could use to build up and then have some like hype thing later down the road. We'll have to see. I like this patch a lot. It's a very different pace from what we've seen over the last month. I guess they needed to find their footing after Christmas again, and now they can actually like go all out with what they've been working on. So yeah, I remain hopeful. Again, I'm probably gonna play some Wonderlands in between as well. I'm gonna see how we go with that. But yeah, I'm excited, and I'm hoping that this will give the game some longevity, and I'm also definitely looking forward to Blunderbuss. I want to see what that's all about. With that, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you're new to the channel, consider subbing and maybe clicking the bell so you get notified of other videos. If you want to see the Borderlands videos, make sure to set the bell to all notifications, even if you already subscribed, because otherwise you probably not get the notification. That's just how YouTube works these days. And I hope to see you for the next one soon. Sloth out.